the line. Can you say your name, please?
Zach Pritchard.
Thank you, Councilman.
I've had enough 2020.
Kirk, are you running the?
I am.
He is.
First man.
James is in quarantine.
Oh.
His wife's having surgery and they had to be quarantined for the week before.
So did the stuff I sent you help you?
It did.
Good. That was from Adriana from, I forget the name of the company, but I was actually
Yeah,
out
sell
at the Capitol on the 10th,
I know, I just saw him, I
talking
don't
to the
know.
House about electrification.
Do we have anything on here
in
that-
Oklahoma.
Oh, wow, that's odd.
So, yeah, it was very weird. But it was a really good conversation.
Oh, the
because what we're doing here is. very-
Paranormal thing out at the
This
expo.
is like, there's
Wonder
nobody
if
else.
he's here about that.
We just about have to be, I would think.
Yeah.
Just, electric taxi company, seriously. We're pretty much it.
Oh, y'all, yeah, absolutely.
So I went representing Rosewood, and, it was very interesting. But I actually brought up what we're doing on the ordinance here, because they actually brought that up.
Okay.
And, I said, well, we've been working in the city, to get the ordinances fixed. And I went through the story of, the founding and where we're at, where we're going, and working with the city, and, it's good. I did like it. It was actually an awesome
So-
article. Oh, I know. Well, I think it's first, and then it's second. It might be, either way, I'm here for both. Here for both. Because this is gonna be, a little bit more quick than we thought. So, I think we need to position ourselves to get ready for it.
I'm ready whenever you are, Kurt. Well, do we have people on the line?
Stephanie, who do we have on the
Are we-
line?
Sure. So this evening we have Mr. Irvin, Councilman Cox, and Councilman Pritchard.
Missing Councilman Stevens?
That's correct.
Whenever you're ready, Mayor, just let me know.
Okay, as soon as we get Councilman Stevens on there.
I just texted him.
We have a new caller on the line. Can you state your name, please?
Cully Stevens.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor, it appears we're ready to go.
Thank you. Kirk, I'm ready when you are, so just give me the finger when it's time. I meant this. It's time to call to order the regular meeting. It's time to call to order the regular meeting of the McAllister City Council, Tuesday, September 22nd. We do have a quorum, and we have Joe Watkins here to lead us in invocation and pledge.
Thank you, Mayor Brown, for asking me to do this. It's an honor to be in front of all you men and ladies and to do this, all right? So if you will, just join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you'll mind standing, I'll say a quick prayer here. God, we just come to you tonight, humbled to be in your presence. Just be with us each and every day to do the right things in your eyes. It says for us to pray for our leadership, and not only are we praying for our leadership tonight in this nation, in this state, but we're also praying for our leadership here on this city council. I just ask that each and every day you give these men and ladies that help run this city, just give them wisdom, give them knowledge, and just let them seek your guidance each and every day. More than that, thank you for Jesus Christ who died on the cross, that we are forgiven of our sins and guaranteed that home in heaven someday when we come to meet you. Again, just God bless all these men, all these women in leadership positions in the city of McAllister, and be with them each and every day. I ask this all in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Again, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Cox,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Boatright,
Here.
Pritchard,
Here.
Mayor.
Here. We are on to citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Residents may address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda. Residents must provide their name and address. Council requests that comments be limited to 5 minutes. Our first one up is JT Carnell. Carnell? I've got JT up first.
Actually, I think Clint's gonna be the one.
Okay. Are you Clint Gray?
I am. Nice to meet you.
You as well.
Just want to say tonight, Mayor and leaders of McAllister and all who are listening, thank you for a moment to share our hearts. My name is Clint Gray, and I'd just like to say, first of all, I'm a husband, and I'm a father and a small business owner in the area, and I'm also a pastor of a local church. And most importantly, I am very glad to say that I'm a Christian. I love God, I love our country, and I love our community. And I'm deeply burdened. Can you guys hear me okay with this mask and all? I'm deeply burdened
But
by
could
the...
you pull the mic closer to you, because we have people that,
Is that better?
yes.
I'm deeply burdened by the direction that our city and our community is heading in. The cross that was small was removed from our city emblem and logo a few years back. The street signs and their toppers are allowed, but they're, as long as they don't show a hardworking cowboy or a life-sacrificing veteran kneeling by a cross. Sundays are now allowing alcohol sales, and that's been permitted for a while. Gambling addictions are ruining the marriages and finances of many in our community. And our youth are confused about what gender that they are, and if right and wrong even exist. When we're dealing with the most challenging season we've ever faced, and many having fear and uncertainty caused by a worldwide pandemic, our city takes another step down by allowing an adult entertainment event to come to our community known as a paranormal circus. I've heard from other pastors and church leaders, other Christians in our community, and also elected officials that strongly oppose this rated R unhealthy event from coming to our community. This event is immoral, unethical, unhealthy, evil, and dangerous. No amount of money or entertainment can justify a pornographic, demonic circus act in our community. On behalf of churches and Christians that love our community, that feed people, that clothe children, that pray for all of those, including you, as you're going through times of hurt, I plead with you who are in leadership to cancel this paranormal circus and do not allow more pollution and more fear to stricken the lives of our McAllister residents and our area citizens. If you allow this event to take place at the expo on October the 1st to the 4th, you're going to open the door for more like it to come, and possibly very worse, to plague our community like an immoral cancer that spreads. You know, desperate times call for desperate measures. And what the world and our community needs right now, through all that everybody's going through together, we need God's love. We need the truth of what the Bible teaches. We need prayer for one another. And we need every human being having faith to love one another and to treat each other by the golden rule, which says to do unto others as we have them do unto us. I just want to close tonight with two passages of Scripture that hopefully would shine some light and wisdom and some direction for our future. One is in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. It says, "But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power, have nothing to do with them. And in closing, 2 Chronicles chapter 7:14, God says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. So I just want to share tonight from my heart, and I'm speaking for all of us as local pastors and church leaders who are here, and I feel confidently that I can share from all of the pastors in the area, 50 plus, that we are against this event coming to our community. It's not good for families. It's not good for anybody's eyes to see, and it's rated R. And it shouldn't be welcome in our community, and I just want you guys to know that that's where we stand, and we stand for the Lord, and we stand for the cross, and we stand for the United States of America flag, and we stand for our families, and that's all of you included, and we thank you for hearing us out, and we thank you for taking action upon this, because action is needed. So God bless you guys, and we're all there for all of you and your families as you go through times of need. Don't hesitate to call any of us, because we would love to pray or counsel or be there for you and all of your families. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You know, because it's a non-agenda item, we can't interact with you on this.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for hearing our hearts.
Sure. Yeah. I have Misty Reeves next.
She's outside. I'm Bart Patterson there on that.
Okay. You-
I wouldn't have a lot to say other, I think it's gonna open doors that we really don't wanna open.
You're following up on what Mr. Gray just said.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, is Misty Reeves going to want to speak? Do you know?
We might have just come show a, kind of coalition here.
Okay, well, let me make sure I got everybody checked off, so I don't not call somebody that is wanting to speak. Okay, so Misty is good. You're Mr. Patterson. Wesley Gray.
He's just here to support as well.
Okay. Robert Mabry.
The same thing.
Okay. Brian, you're on the agenda items. Joe Watkins. Okay, and then Ross Selman. You're with them? Yeah. So, okay. And you didn't want to speak separately? Okay, great. All right, and then, okay, in that case, then we will move to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Tonight, the agenda consists of A, approval of minutes from the September 8th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAllister City Council. B, approval of claims for September 2nd, 2020 through September 15, 2020. C, discussion and possible action on approval of an agreement for mutual aid between McAllister Ammunition Plant and the City of McAllister Fire Department. D, consider and act upon approval of the memorandum of understanding and authorize the mayor to sign the collective bargaining agreement for fiscal year 2020-2021 with FOP Lodge 97 McAllister Police Department. Would anyone like anything removed? In that case, I'd take a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make it, Mayor.
Motion Vice Mayor Brown, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corge, call roll, please.
Vice Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Boatright,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yeah.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We will now move to public hearing. All persons interested in any ordinance listed under scheduled business shall have an opportunity to be heard in accordance with Article 2, Section 212B of the city charter. Tonight we have two. The first is an ordinance amending Chapter 110, Vehicles for Hire, the McAllister City Code, repealing all conflicting ordinances and providing for severability. The second is an ordinance creating Chapter 94, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places of the McAllister City Code, Article 1, in general, Section 94-8, permit for electric, permit for electric charging stations on public streets and sidewalks, repealing all conflicting ordinances and providing for severability. Take a motion in a second to open the public hearing. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yeah.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, we are now in a public hearing. Anyone that would like to address this on the first ordinance, come forward.
Which is the first one, John?
The first one is
Taxi.
the taxi.
My name is Brian West. Thanks for the council for hearing me. We've reviewed the ordinance changes and we fully support them. I'm also owner and operator of Rover Taxi, which is, as far as I know, the only electric taxi company within the state of Oklahoma. So we not only have an interest in this agenda item, but the next agenda item as well. We'll be working with the police department for the finalization of the taxi licenses that will be displayed within the vehicles to ensure the safety of our passengers. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the first ordinance? Seeing no one, we'll move to the second ordinance, if you would like to address that.
So, again, Brian West, Rover Taxi. Thank you, guys. Week before last, on September 10th, I actually got to go visit with the House in the Capitol. They were doing electrification of transportation within the state of Oklahoma. I had expressed what we have been working with the city on, which seems to be a problem across the state. How are municipalities supposed to facilitate the electrification of our transportation system when they are shackled by outdated ordinances that don't help deploy charging infrastructure? So I've worked with Kurt and I've worked with everybody on the city to give my input, and I support what the city is attempting to accomplish, because this electrification of our transportation system is going to happen at a rapid pace and a lot faster than any of us even believe. Like I said, we are, as far as I know, the only electric taxi company within the state of Oklahoma. We do deliver fares upwards of 250 miles from McAllister, Oklahoma. There is a lack of transportation within our rural Oklahoma areas, and we are trying to fill that gap. There's so many people that don't have transportation, and when I started this company, I didn't realize the impact we would have on our community. But I thank the community for opening my eyes and letting me see where the need is, because I actually doubled down and invested in our community personally. I've spent almost $250,000 of my own money to launch what we've done with Rover. We've launched with 4 brand new 2020 vehicles this year during a pandemic. Don't ask me how. Everything just aligned, and we were able to pull it off. And I couldn't imagine doing it without the support of this community. I thank everybody for helping us do what we've done, and I want to make sure that we are here to support the community moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the second ordinance? Okay, seeing no one, I take a motion and second to close the public hearing. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're now on to agenda item number 1. Consider and act upon an ordinance amendment of the City of McAllister amending the taxi cab business license and taxi cab driver's license permits. Chief Hurd.
Kevin Hurd, McAllister Police Department. Since I was here last on this ordinance about a month ago, the new ordinance basically brings us into, like I said, the 21st century. The old ordinance was outdated, antiquated. We couldn't enforce it. It was unenforceable. Some of the things that was in it are no longer law now. It said that they had to take a taxi cab to a state certified inspection to get it inspected. We hadn't inspected vehicles in Oklahoma in 20 years. So it was outdated. We updated it, brought it before the council. We had the councilman had a few tweaks that we needed to do on it to try to get things more in line. Some of the reasons not to give somebody a license, or the reason for somebody to be suspended on their license, revoke their license. So Andrea took the councilman's suggestions, and we basically brought this new one. Basically, we made them line up now. They've all got the same kind of offenses or violations in 3 different sections in here. So we updated that, got it to what we thought the councilman wanted. So basically, this is the same thing we brought last time with the additions that y'all requested, and they're all in there now. I can go over if you want, but I'm sure y'all read them. So
Councilman Smith.
I got one tiny tweak, Kevin.
okay,
On section 11053, the heading there says not issued to minors or felons. Maybe since we're also including misdemeanor convictions, maybe we ought to have something like not issued to minors or those with a certain felony or misdemeanor convictions.
okay. So change the heading there.
Yeah, just include however you want to do it,
Okay.
misdemeanor.
Yeah, I'll get with Andrea on that one, and she's more into the legal terms like that.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions or comments?
What about, Mayor? Can I address Councilman Smith?
Yeah.
What about the misdemeanors?
You see item 11053,
I don't have a paper one, but,
you don't have it with you?
no. I don't, it's on here, it's on my iPad, I can find it.
Okay, it says not issued to minors or felons. And then in the list of items below, it explains that. Number 2 says a misdemeanor conviction involving a violent crime, etc. So I'm just saying, maybe we ought to make the heading include misdemeanor convictions as well as certain felony convictions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions or comments? Come on up.
I just want to make sure the clarification on that is misdemeanors that are violent.
It's
Because,
in there,
Yeah.
number
okay,
2
I just want to make sure that that is clear.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm fine with everything.
Yeah,
else.
it's
Heading,
only
I think,
changing
just ought to
kind of
say certain
Certain
Yeah.
convictions.
listed misdemeanor or felony convictions.
Yeah. It also listed DUIs in there, which is typically a misdemeanor also, when it's a moving violation.
Yeah, you could just change it to not issued under the following circumstances, and just, that only takes.
Something that'll cover it all.
Thanks for that.
Any other questions or comments? I'm gonna take a motion in a second. Motion Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Corge, call the roll, please.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 2. Consider and act upon an ordinance of the City of McAllister to allow for permitting of the installation of electronic charging stations on city right-of-ways on public streets and sidewalks. Mr. Eidenhower.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This item was also This ordinance was also pulled at the last meeting in August. Councilman, if you'd pass those down.
I think we already got them. We got them, Kurt.
Okay, perfect.
You guys got these?
I got
Okay. At that meeting, there were some concerns with the way that the ordinance was written, specifically in terms of how specific it was or the lack of specificity. So we went back and added some more, trying to take into account the concerns that were mentioned at the meeting. And we'll walk through those real quickly. I won't read it item or line from line, but I'm happy to answer questions throughout. One of the concerns was that our ordinance was not detailed enough in the permitting process, what we were going to require. There was a concern that maybe we would just allow these to be put anywhere. So we went through there and we added some requirements. If you are going to apply, you have to show us a site plan of the proposed location. The permission from the owner of the property, or if the property owner is the person applying, then that works. But if they are not, they need permission from the property owner to install this. A detailed description of the schedule of the construction that will occur, and then some acknowledgement from the electric utility company that the area that they're proposing can be served with the appropriate amount of power. There was some concerns about where these electric charging stations would be put, whether we would allow them throughout the entire city or in specific areas. So in section 3, we detailed specifically where these charging stations will be allowed, and that's what the attached map kind of also shows as well. Councilman Smith, I do appreciate your review on this. There is a correction we need to make in this for section 3A. We talk about, well, actually it's section 3A, B, and C, and D. We say that they shall be allowed in these areas. It was our intention that you would have to meet each of these requirements, but the way it's written, you would only have to meet one of the requirements. So we do need to change the language to say, shall only be allowed for section 3, items A through D. That should cover where these charging stations will be allowed.
Okay, Kurt?
Sure.
On 3A, I think we just need to change that, shall be allowed on only the following designated streets.
That's fine too.
And then right after that list of streets, have something that says, in addition, the following possibilities if you're on those streets. In other words, you gotta be on those streets to begin with. And then these are some additional considerations, right? So if you could put a sentence in there between 3A7 and B.
And I think either of those would work if we make those additional subcategories, additional restrictions that apply. I think if we just said, shall only be allowed, that might also cover it might also do the same thing as you're suggesting. I don't care which way we use. But yeah, you were right to identify that as a problem. We do need to make sure that we change that language.
One other thing,
Sure.
on that 3E, where we're talking about reducing sidewalks to no less than 36 inches.
Yes.
Is everybody okay with a 36-inch wide sidewalk?
Does anybody know what the ADA is?
It's a pretty skimpy sidewalk. I don't know what the
ADA is 28.
I don't think we have sidewalks any much wider than 3.5 foot, do we? We got some, I don't think we have any 4-foot sidewalks.
Yeah.
We've got
I know
some in
of.
those business areas.
Few of them?
In the business areas, we do.
Well, yeah, but I was talking about not downtown, but Washington Street and Adams and stuff like that, so.
Well, if you go and drive all these streets, BJ, there are a lot of them, where they've got businesses and
Uh-huh.
the sidewalk kind of goes all the way to the curb. I mean, it's a
Right.
pretty wide sidewalk. And so I'm just wondering, is everybody okay with 3 feet? We
Yeah,
can make
just
it 4 feet
as
or
long,
whatever.
my only concern would be just as long as it's ADA compliant.
36 is ADA compliant.
Of course, if you're carrying a big bundle and meeting somebody, you might wanna have a little extra.
We do have some sidewalks, and not that I have a preference on what the width is, but we do have some sidewalks that if we increase that enough, it would eliminate them from consideration. Washington Street is a good example where the sidewalk is not particularly wide. And if you require 4 or 5 feet, you may end up knocking them out of this consideration.
If the only legal requirement that we know of is 28 inches for ADA, then 36 is fine.
We will double check that, but I believe that's the number I saw recently.
Moving forward, we do have under item 4, we have kind of some odd in items that we included in here. One thing I want to point out that was not included was a restriction placed upon these EV charging station, the parking stall itself, to where it would only be restricted for electric vehicles. In this ordinance, a combustion engine would be able to park in an EV charging stall. There was a concern that right now the number of electric vehicles is fairly low. We are anticipating it to increase, but right now if we allowed them to restrict who could park in these public spaces, that we would essentially be creating private parking spaces for a small number of people. So for now, we don't address that in the ordinance, and we allow anyone to park.
Are we gonna put one station ever so many blocks, or is it gonna be 2, 3, or 4 like it's showing in the example here?
So we specifically only allow up to 4 per block.
4 per block?
But again, we can't tell you what the applicant is going to request. We have no site plans in at this point. This is the process to allow people to come to us and say, here's my idea, here's where I want to put it, here's how many I want to put there. I can't tell you if there's going to be 1 per block or 4 per. It can't be more than 4, but I don't know between that range what we'll see. I suspect a great many of these blocks won't see one for some time.
I was just concerned if you put 4 of them in a row and you block off 4 parking spaces in front of a store downtown that doesn't have that many electric cars that comes down there. You know, are we putting too many out? That was my concern, having too many of them here right now. I mean, going.
And two things on that point specifically is the property owner, whether they own whether the property owner is the one applying or whether someone else is applying and wanting to install charging stations in front of someone else's business, the property owner has to give permission to allow that. If they don't want it, it won't go. Also, not allowing these charging station parking stalls to be restricted, you're allowing a normal combustion engine vehicle to park there as well.
Well, that's what I was concerned about, because if you get so many of them in a row and people don't park there, the police gonna write them a ticket for parking there if they're not a electric car. So that's.
Under this ordinance, they will not. There's nothing restricting. It is still considered a public parking space, and anyone can park there.
Yeah, it's just there.
It's just there.
Okay.
And on the final, I'm sorry, did you have?
Go ahead.
On point 5, there were several concerns that the city might be obligating themselves to something financially. So we wanted to make sure that we had language in here specifically putting the financial obligation on the person that is installing the parking station, including getting insurance, any installation cost, any demo costs that are associated with installing these will be on the person that is on the applicant itself.
We're not out anything but just giving them a parking space.
Correct.
So no money has changed. I mean, we're not putting any money in.
The only money that changes hands is we do require a electric permit inspection, a part of the code process.
Right.
That is the only piece that they will be paying to the city. Everything else will not. There's
kind
no
of
other
building
transaction.
permit? No kind of permit, a yearly permit, or is it just?
This one doesn't specify that it's an annual permit. It does say a permit, but there's not a fee associated with the permit other than the electrical inspection.
That's what I was asking.
Councilman Smith?
Well, I drove these streets, and I'm still thinking there are plenty of places that somebody that wanted to put one in, could get private land to do that, either rent it or obtain it. So I'm generally against it. But the other comment I was wondering about is, aside from the convenience of providing a small number of EV drivers some convenience, what do we get out of it? Now, you mentioned we have some kind of a utility tax Is that right?
We do.
Is the city gonna get something, are these gonna, these aren't gonna be free, right? People are gonna pay for the electricity?
Well, in some cases, we do have a local that has said they want to put one in. We don't have anything from them. Their intention is for it to be free
Okay,
for the
if it's
public.
free, I don't worry about the city making money on it particularly. I don't like the whole deal anyway, but if it's not free, then it looks to me like the city should collect something. Have you thought about that?
Well, and so in terms of permit, no. The original ordinance did not require any type of permitting fee. I didn't look at that. Now, as far as the city collecting something, my conversations with PSO, every commercial, residential, metered unit in the city does collect the city sales tax plus a franchise fee. So these should apply. PSO is not going to give the electricity away.
And they pay us a small tax on that, or a fee?
2% franchise and then 3.75% for sales tax. I'm not going to say that is a for sure thing. I will check with PSO, but past conversations I've had with them would indicate that is what
So
would happen.
Who gets the franchise fee?
We do.
PSO or?
No,
us?
we do. They
And
collect
the
it for
sales
us.
tax?
Yes, we get both.
We get both.
Good deal.
I'll get to you in a minute. One of my concerns kind of ties in a little bit with what Councilman Smith was saying, is, I'd be fine with this ordinance if it was for personal use, but there's nothing in here that keeps someone from putting in a charging station and charging people for it. And that is essentially the city subsidizing that business because they're giving them the property to use, whereas, Mr. West had to invest his own money on his own place, and it's not fair to the private sector for us to give the usage of property at no cost to a commercial use on that, for anything, essentially. So, if we were to pass this, I would only do it if it was for a personal use or a no-fee use to customers, because I don't want, I don't want Weldon to come down and put one in and start charging people.
Yeah. What is personal use? What do you mean by that?
Or the permit who it's issued to for their vehicle.
Just for the vehicle?
Yeah, or if, like, we've had one say that they are going to allow others to use it at no charge, they would be required to do no fee if they were gonna operate under our permit, but if they were going to sell the usage of it, I think we need to address that somehow.
Agreed. I mean, it looks like if it's personal use, they ought to make it available for others to use it, right? Since we're giving them the land.
Yeah, if they're not gonna charge them, but like I said, if somebody puts in a for-profit charging station, we shouldn't allow that on our city property, because it's not fair to any other private investor that's already put something in or intends to put something in on their property. We would be subsidizing, and that's essentially picking and choosing.
True.
Mayor, when you're done, can I say something?
Yeah, I'm done, go ahead.
To that last point about the, people potentially profiting from this, I mean, we already do that. You can get like a street vendor permit, so you can set up some sort of vending cart out on the sidewalks and make money from that property. We've also got the have the food truck ordinance we passed a couple years ago, so people can use that parking space to operate a food truck. So this idea of using the public sidewalks or streets to make money is not completely. I mean, it's actually something that we're doing currently. I do have a question though. Why? It looks like Choctaw Avenue is excluded from the list of allowable places. Why is that?
That was another concern from the council last time, is that if we put these in places where there's already a lot of traffic, it might create more traffic than the parking spaces can handle already. So we did not include areas where there was intense amount of parking throughout the day. That is primarily Choctaw and then First Street between Carl Albert and Choctaw.
If I can ask a follow up, wouldn't, like I know down on Choctaw it's 2-hour parking. Wouldn't that, or would that still apply even if we adopted this ordinance? Like, would there still be that 2-hour parking limit?
It should, but Joe may need to answer that.
It's not addressed in the ordinance, so I would think it would still apply.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said it's
What was the
because,
answer? I couldn't hear it.
Mr. Ridenhour said that would be something the city attorney would have to address, and I said that it's not in the ordinance, so the 2-hour parking would still apply, would be my interpretation.
Mr. Mayor, this is Joe Irvin. All those ordinances of general applicability would still be in effect. So it would still be a 2-hour parking if it's in that designated area.
Well, okay, last thing, Mayor. I have, it's not like a very good one, but we have a spot where you can charge an electric vehicle in front of my business on Choctaw. It's all the way almost down to 5th Street, but it's great. I mean, we get people that use it on occasion, and then they'll come in and do business with us. So I think we should put them on Choctaw, especially if the parking restrictions, the 2-hour parking restrictions are going to apply. And, this ordinance doesn't restrict these charging stations to only electric cars. So, even if someone puts an electric charging station in a parking spot on Choctaw, any car could still park there even if it's not an electric vehicle. I mean, I think they need to be as close to the businesses as possible. I mean, this is one of the reasons in my mind, this is the main reason to have this ordinance, so that we can put these things in more urban areas so that someone can park their car, and then while they're charging it, they can, enjoy our commercial districts down there. So I would make a motion that we adopt the proposed ordinance with the addition of Choctaw from Main Street to 6th Street.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Stevens. I second that, but I would ask if Councilman Pritchard would also think about including the Old Town District as well. If I'm reading this correctly, we are not allowing that to be an option unless I've missed something.
Did you hear that, Mr. Pritchard?
Yes, I certainly have no problem including the Old Town District, and we probably should. I mean, it makes a lot of sense over there too. I don't know. I'll just go ahead and withdraw my motion then.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Stevens.
Just one second,
I'd like to
one
make
second,
a
Councilman
motion.
Stevens. One
I
second.
have one question for
Okay.
Mr. Ridenhour.
One second. I want to clarify something that I had said that Mr. Pritchard spoke on. I was talking about we shouldn't do this on public property for commercial usage. What I meant was we shouldn't do it on commercial or on city property for commercial usage for free. So now go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Ridenhour, is there a reason why we excluded Old Town from the ordinance, the map?
No. Whenever we were trying to put this together, we wanted to create the simplest ordinance we could. We tried to restrict it to this area, but other parts of McAllister could easily be included. I would request, if you want to include it, just to keep the same format, just let me know what street between what two cross streets.
Okay. Then I would like to make a motion and amend motion to approve, and then also, though, to add in, I'm trying to think of the area there, Main Street directly through Old Town,
State Highway.
all the way
Can you not
to
do it?
State Highway there, all the way through Old Town, directly to the, I'm trying to think of the street there. Is it Rock? It's one of the last there on your right. So starting at Main and making it all the way through Rock.
There's
Rock is the last Rock is the last street.
That's a state.
Yeah, I'd like to do that then, and add it all the way through Maine from Rock, from Electric, all the way on State Highway there on Maine, all the way to Rock.
You can't do it.
But before I ask for a second, we need to get clarification from the city attorney if we can actually do that on a state highway.
It's public right-of-way parking, correct?
Yeah, you could do it for the parking on the. You may run into some difficulty if you try to charge something for the permitting on the state highway, but no, you can as far as the public parking. But just a point of order, Mr. Pritchard withdrew his motion, and so need to ask Councilman Stevens if his motion also includes Choctaw.
Yes, my motion does also include Choctaw.
Also.
Okay, I need clarification on your Old Town, because you said from Maine to Rock, and Maine's north and south, and Rock is east and
Yes,
west, so you would need a beginning street.
From Electric,
Okay,
from Electric, all the way down Main Street to Rock Avenue.
okay, and that was a motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Councilman Smith, you had your hand up?
Well, in generally being opposed to the whole thing, I'm opposed to putting them on Choctaw. I think that was a good idea, not including Choctaw. Northtown, that's another situation. But, you know, my understanding on these EVs is people that live here are gonna be charging them at home every night. So I'm suspecting that anybody that's coming and needs to charge at any one of these stations is somebody maybe from out of town who found some really unique boutique in McAllister they want to visit. And in that case, I don't think having them walk a block or two is a hardship, you know, if you're going to someplace special. So I would argue that keeping Choctaw clear of this is a good idea.
Mayor, if I may, Councilman Stevens,
Go ahead.
this is why I'm supportive of this. We are looking, if we look to the future and we look at what all the car manufacturers are doing right now and where this is going, they're going to electric. We have many state highways that go through us. We're actively pursuing bringing other retailers and strip centers and things like that to our community to attract and get people to stop. If you look along the electric charging stations and you look at where they're at right now, we're wonderfully positioned to capture people going north and south and east and west between major areas, especially from Dallas heading north. When you charge at one of these, because I have an electric vehicle, I said this last meeting, you're going to be there anywhere from 20, 30 minutes to an hour, especially if they put in these fast chargers, which require a lot of investiture on those people's part with very little return, except incrementally over time, but especially as electric vehicles ramp up. But typically people that charge at these are going to park, they're going to get out and find someplace to go eat, they're going to look for these chargers because they are fairly sparse, where they can park and they can shop, they can eat. If they have kids, they'll go to a park and they'll go get something to eat and go there. I mean, these are a good thing for our community to attract tax dollars, get people to stay here, spend their money at our restaurants, our retailers, at other areas. So that's why I'm supportive of this, for no other reason than trying to capture more dollars in our community from outside the community. So I would ask you guys to think about this just like we've thought about economic development. How can we attract dollars here, and how can we get more of them as they leave? That's my 2 cents. I think this is a good thing for the community, especially as this industry continues to grow and the auto industry is continuing to shift this way.
Any other questions or comments?
John.
Councilman Boatright?
I would like to see 1 or 2 in the Northtown area, just from, say, where Hutchinson's old grocery store is along there, all the way north to Locust. That's just about 2 full blocks. But now there's a lot of people that come to Northtown, and I haven't noticed any electric cars coming over there yet. But they, there's a possibility that that we could maybe let them put one or two over in the Old Town District. And I think that that may be a somewhat of a good idea.
Councilman Stevens, I've got a question. Would you be willing to accept an amendment to change section 94.8 from permit for electric charging stations on public streets and sidewalks to permit for non-commercial electric charging stations on streets and sidewalks?
No, I would not be.
Okay. Okay. Mr. West, did you want to address?
Again, this is Brian West with Rover Taxi. I've invested heavily in this. I've been working with Francis Solar for a long time. We currently have two 50 kilowatt DC quick chargers in our parking lot. We're in the process of adding two more. Our charging station is the most utilized charging station in the entire state of Oklahoma. We get more charging sessions than any other station that Francis has installed. And we only currently have one operational station. There are days I have to queue people. They have to wait. In addition, I'm not sure many of you know that the state of Oklahoma offers a 75% tax credit for alternative vehicle fueling stations. That includes electricity that can carry forward for up to 5 years. So the other thing I want to make sure that you guys are understanding is that when somebody comes to our station and charges, as Councilman Stevens has pointed out, they will go spend money. They get in our taxi, they go to a restaurant, they spend money in our community. They're here an hour and a half most of the time. We are the conduit to Northwest Arkansas, Tulsa. It is the point where people stop and charge. And I'm happy to provide it. We have a perfect 10 score on PlugShare that takes effort on our part to ensure nobody gets stranded. And I think the charging stations should be allowed on Choctaw and anywhere that they're convenient for a business, because if they charge a fee, they get a 75% tax credit. In addition, the city collects sales tax on every transaction. Not even just the transaction fee, but the per kilowatt hour fee. In addition, you get it on the power from the franchise fee that you get. So you're really raking it in coming and going on these things. And a lot of people are, like I said, we get 60 to 80 people stop at our shop on a monthly basis, in addition to our company using these stations all over the state to facilitate the transportation of passengers where they need to go. So I just want everybody to remember that these incentives exist in the state, and it's good for local businesses to take advantage of them if they can. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
This is on the motion that Councilman Stevens made.
Yeah, Councilman Stevens, correct me if I'm wrong, but your motion is as written, but to include Choctaw from Main to 6th and Old Town from along Main Street from Electric to Rock.
Yes, sir.
Did we want to include?
To make the corrections we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and including the corrections that we discussed earlier.
Could you remind me of those, Councilman Smith?
Sure. On section 3A, I'm suggesting we put in there, instead of shall be allowed on one of the following streets, just say shall be allowed on only one of the following designated streets. The way it is now, you could read this to mean if you met the conditions of item A, and you could also meet the conditions of B or C, and those kind of contradict what should A. So I think it ought to be clear in A, it shall be allowed only on the following designated streets. And then after we get through with item 7 there, have a sentence that says in addition to these, or once you're on these streets, whatever, the following items are also applicable, or these are some additional constraints on what you do, B, C, D, and E, and F and G. So they're in addition 3A, not substituting for 3A.
Correct, yes.
Okay, I'd be okay with that.
Mr. Irvin, I have a quick question for you. Is the city providing equal representation if they are subsidizing commercial charging stations by giving them free usage of the property?
There's not an equal protection issue if that's what you're asking. And so, I mean, it's fine for the city to encourage one form of commerce over another. That's not an equal protection violation.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'll give you one last call. Anybody? Corge, you call the roll, please.
Councilman Stevens,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Smith,
No.
Cox,
Yeah.
Brown, Mayor.
No, and the motion carries. We are on to agenda item number 3. Consider an act upon authorizing the purchase of a 2019 Western Star 4700 SB roll-off truck from Premier Truck Sales in Tulsa. Ms. Irvin.
Mayor and council, this was tabled. This is a purchase of a roll-off truck for the recycling center and for our residual handling at the water treatment plant, hauling our sludge to the landfill. In your packet, you have a memo that why we are recommending the purchase of the truck after the last discussion that this council had. We did go out and get a quote for these trips and what it would cost and compared it to the what it would be an average cost per year or the total cost, because we don't know exactly how many trips we would be making, and so I estimated the minimum and maximum trips that we would take. But in the summary at the bottom, you can see that it's compared to the purchase price of the $168,000, so we would be able to pay off the truck in a year or less, according to these calculations. We should not outsource it. We should keep it in-house and make those trips and purchase the vehicle at this time.
So to sum it up, it's a better deal to buy it than it is to.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Manager Irvin, you're saying that, last time we talked about, I think one of these trucks leasing, and then we went back. In other words, you were seeking people out there that could do but it would cost more. Let me slow it down. It would cost more for us to bid it out, or instead of.
At the last meeting, it was suggested that it would be cheaper to be able to hire someone to
That's what I
do
was
it
getting
rather
at.
than
Yes, I
purchase
bid it
it.
out. Yeah.
And so what we did was we went out and got some pricing to see what it would be, and it is more cost effective to go ahead and purchase the vehicle.
And you said 168,000
And that's state bid price, yes.
Well, my concern, we have so many vehicles. I don't know what we have. 200, 300, 250.
155.
Oh, we got rid of some. Okay, 155, and of course, I guess we have a fleet insurance, so it covered the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
Anyone else? Take a motion and a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, I'm gonna give you a second. I already gave the motion to Councilman Smith, if that's all right.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 4, which looks very similar to number 3. Consider and act upon authorizing the purchase of a new 2019 Western Star 4700 SV roll-off truck from Premier Truck Group of Tulsa.
This is the, taking out the loan, authorizing us to take out the loan for this vehicle. And I think this was discussed at the last meeting also, and we have included the rates, and recommend the First National Bank at 2.73% interest.
Any questions or comments? Take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 5. Consider an act upon authorizing the mayor to sign the work order for professional services with Infrastructure Solutions Group LLC for engineering services for the water plant clear well rehabilitation.
Council, thank you for having me. This is the work order, as we discussed on the last council meeting, to do the rehabilitation of the concrete clear wells out at the water treatment plant. This is the work order to put the plans together, to go out for bids, and run the construction management and provide inspection for the project.
Are there any questions? Yeah, take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
No.
Stevens,
No.
Cox,
No.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 6. Consider an act upon authorizing the mayor to sign the contractor's final pay number 2 and the certificate of substantial completion for the contract with Built-Right Construction LLC for the UPS lift station improvements and accept the project as completed. Mr. Burke.
Council, this is what we call the UPS lift stations out there by the airport. The old lift station has been in need. I've given you some pictures of before and after. You can kind of see what kind of shape it's in. Built-Right had the contract. They did an excellent job on it. Project is complete. We did a final inspection. All the punch items have been done. So our recommendation, accept the project as complete and pay the contractor the final pay application, $146,542.97.
Any questions? I have one. Just what kind of life expectancy do you expect out of a new pump station? Just ballpark.
As far as the station as a whole, about 20 years. The motors themselves can go out every
Yeah,
5 to 10,
Anything that moves?
and lightning strikes and things like that. But yeah, about 20 years is about what we expect to see one out lift station.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Smith. Second, Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
We're on to agenda item number 7, discussion on monthly financial update.
Mayor and council, you have in front of you the general fund at a glance, and we're 16.67% through the year. This is as of August 31st. we are above in our revenues and the 27.64%. I will remind you that that 1.2 is the CARES Act funding. That the expenditures are 17.5% for and the transfers are right on target for 16.67. The revenues in the MPWA at the bottom are above budget, approximately 2% at 19.44, and the expenditures are a little under budget at 12.3. The next page is your general fund sales tax, and our general fund was $685,000. And I like to point out that this is our 2 cents that goes into our general fund. And so when we talk about our sales tax being over budget $1 million, that's our entire amount of sales tax, because we do collect for the McAllister Schools and MRHC, and then we have a 1 cent dedicated sales tax and a 50-cent infrastructure fund. And so over budget in our general fund alone is $538,000. The next page is your use tax. It is over budget $30,000, but it's over last year $48,000 at $167,000. And that's the September numbers. MPWA revenues, these are the August numbers, and they are above what we received last year at this time compared to the prior 2 years. And then the final page is our treasury report, which tells you where our cash is in the banks. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
Mayor, I do have one
Go
question,
ahead.
please, Councilman Stevens.
Sure, go ahead.
Mrs. Irvin, on the water sales residence and commercial for August, is that due to our increase of what we have there, or by actual just usage?
Well, this is dollar amount, so it takes into effect consumption and pricing. But our pricing wouldn't have gone into effect, and increase at July the 1st wouldn't have gone into effect because you wouldn't receive that bill until, August to pay that bill. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, what I started to say was congratulations on another CAFR award winning.
We have a very good accounting
We do. We
staff.
It's 6 years now.
6 years, yes.
Fantastic. Tell everyone as well from the council and from everybody up here that great job, and we're really proud of the work that they do.
I will.
Okay, we're on to agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action on ordinance 2692, amending mask face covering mandate. And this is mine, so I'm gonna start with a few things from the White House Coronavirus Task Force on Oklahoma. And Oklahoma is in the red zone for cases, indicating more than 100 new cases per 100,000 population last week. This was from November 13th. It's the most recent. September 13th. It's the most recent one available. Oklahoma is indicating a rate between 5 and 10%, with the 5th highest rate in the country. 65% of all counties in Oklahoma have moderate or high levels of community transmission, with 34% having high levels of community transmission. Oklahoma had 142 new cases per 100,000 population in the last week, compared to a national average of 74 per 100,000. between September 5th and September 11th, on average, 77 patients with confirmed COVID-19 and 75 patients with suspected COVID-19 were reported as newly admitted each day to hospitals in Oklahoma. An average of 84% of hospitals report either new confirmed or new suspected COVID patients each day during this period. Therefore, this may be an underestimate of the actual total number of COVID-related hospitalizations. Underreporting may lead to a lower allocation of critical supplies. Their recommendation is establish a statewide mask mandate. COVID-19 is being brought into nursing homes through community transmission. Review and improve infection control practices at nursing homes to stop the introduction of COVID-19. Arkansas is a great example in the heartland where statewide transmission was decreased through mass usage. We are, McAllister is, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in the red zone, in red zone cases. And Pittsburgh County is also a red county under the White House's guidelines. We, in Oklahoma, our 7-day moving average of new cases is 1,098. If you go back 2 weeks prior to that, it was 858, and if you go back 30 days prior to that, it's 523. McAllister is current, this is as of yesterday, McAllister current active cases are 197, which is, it's skewed by Jackie Brannon because they had a big number go in there. But they have, as of the 16th, they had 113 active cases at Jackie Brannon. So using that number that's subtracted from the totals, our active cases week to week for the past 5 weeks, our most recent first is 84, then 68, 71, 60, and 82. So it shows that the ordinance is working because the numbers are fairly stable with an increase recently in line with the state. And our numbers could be much better if more people would wear the mask. Unfortunately, we have many entities that are not requiring masks in their establishments. And we have not yet been writing tickets for this. However, if we continue to have places that do not require masks, we will have to start. And this can get very expensive if each person in a store that isn't wearing a mask costs that store $100 per person. And lastly, I want to thank all of those that are doing the right thing and wearing a mask when necessary. Our churches are a good example of this. They had some apprehension about getting fined about not meeting, but after meeting with a number of pastors and going over the ordinance, we have received a great buy-in from many churches. They are masking and social distancing in cases where they cannot wear a mask. Overall, our city is doing pretty well, but we can definitely do better. You know, wear a mask, if not for yourself, then for others. It's a minor inconvenience. It may save someone's life and help keep our businesses open and operating without restrictions. We are staying fairly steady, which is the idea behind wearing the masks. Now is not the time to stop with the cases growing in Oklahoma, not just by local standards, but even by the White House's standards. So my position on this is that we should continue on with this mask mandate and review it again next month. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, well, if we take no action, then it remains in effect until. Okay, so that will put us on to new business. Any matter not known or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of posting the agenda in accordance with section 311.9, Title 25 Oklahoma State Statutes. Mr. Stasiak, do we have any new business?
We do not, Mayor.
Okay, then we will go to the city manager's report.
Just wanted to bring you up to speed on a couple of things that have happened. Yesterday, our animal control officer started on the job, report to the police department. She's here and ready to get to work. So she is out there working Monday through Friday, 8-hour shifts. So that's pretty exciting. Police department, we do have a officer who is currently going through testing of the physicals, and it is our intent upon him passing those physicals to hire him for our police department. So we're actively working on our police department with the ACO officer hired and a new officer. Looks like we've identified a new officer. So just real quick, we're coming up on the end of the year, and that means it's time for our audit. And You know, we talked just briefly about the CAFR award that we have received for the 6th year in a row. The accounting department closed out the financials last week, all POs and everything getting ready for Crawford and Associates, who will help us prepare our financial statements for the auditors. So Crawford will be here next week. The auditors come October the 19th, and we anticipate having our audited financials presented to the council before the end of the year. So we're still on schedule to get that accomplished. One last thing, we're going to be offering flu shots to all city employees and anybody family members that are on the medical coverage. You guys are employees of the city. That will be next Wednesday on September the 30th from 11 to 2 o'clock at the expo. So if you haven't got your flu shot, here is an opportunity to get that taken care of. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right. We will move to remarks and inquiries by the city council. Councilman Stevens?
Mr. Stasiak, and I think we chatted a little bit about this already the other day, and refresh me if I'm wrong. Are we doing anything with the Welcome to McAllister sign that was out on Highway 270 West?
We absolutely are. In fact, we had a proposal on it from a local vendor this week. We're not happy with the design, so we are going out to 2 other vendors to have them look at something different. So yes, to answer your question, we are actively working on that Welcome to McAllister sign, and that's also to include lighting going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Cox?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Stasiak, we talked, they're gonna start the roadway, like cutting, mowing of right-of-ways here pretty soon.
We are actively mowing the right-of-ways along the highways, and we do have one employee that's been pulled off, and he is doing the intersections so that you can sight distances on intersections and stuff. The actual right-of-ways inside the city, I can't answer that at this time. We're doing the best we can.
Okay, well, they're pretty high, you know that.
Pardon me?
The weeds are pretty bad.
They are. And we're getting a good handle on a lot of things,
Okay.
Councilman. So we're heading in those directions.
Okay. And also, I want to say, I guess this is a personnel matter, but I was going to say the animal control officer, she's done a great job for the city of Krebs, and I watched her, you know, when she was there, and I think we made a good. I think you made a good choice. I didn't make the choice, but somebody made the choice.
She wanted to come to work for us.
I think she'll be good. So, thank you.
Councilman Boatright?
Nothing.
Councilman Pritchard? Councilman Pritchard?
Oh, yes, Mayor. I have a question. I think that the law the legislature passed to allow us to do the teleconferences, I think that has an expiration date. Does the city attorney know if that's correct? What was the question again? The law that the legislature passed to allow for us to do these remote meetings, I think that has a sunset date on it. I'm not sure when it is. Do you know if that's correct?
I think it does have a sunset, but I think it was in November. I'll double check that for you.
I'm curious if we thought, or if the staff or the rest of the council have thought, you know, once that time comes, if how we might handle our meetings. We just physically, if there's somewhere we could do them differently, or if we could set them up differently at the council chambers, you know, so that we could do them a little more safely. And I don't, you know, I'm not, if we don't have an answer or not, that's fine, but it's probably something we should start thinking about. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Mayor's comments, I just want to reiterate please wear your mask. Please encourage everyone else to wear a mask. If you can't wear a mask because of medical issues, then there are other methods for you to be able to participate in society. So, we are having problems at some places where I've gone in, and there has been a significant number of people that aren't wearing masks. And, you know, the only way we're gonna get through this is if we continue to do the right thing. There's many places that are actually having the kind of increase in cases that Oklahoma's having, and they're going to, you know, it's going to cause things to be shut back down at some point if cases keep growing, especially as we get to fall and winter, and we don't want to do that. We absolutely don't want to be stuck in that position. So, do the minor inconvenience of wearing a mask or wearing a face shield, and let's get through this thing. So till, we're actually approaching where there's some promising stuff on vaccines that we're still looking at probably at least halfway through 2021. But, between now and then, we can do everything we can to make it as smooth of a process as possible. So please continue to wear masks, and stores and entities that are not requiring people to do it, please step up and do the right thing. And with that, we will recess the council meeting. I would take a motion to convene as McAllister Airport Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the September 8th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAllister Airport Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Item B, and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Now take a motion to convene as McAllister Public Works Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the September 8th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAllister Public Works Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Item B, 3, 4, 5, 6, and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Stevens,
No.
Cox,
No.
Boatright,
Yes.
Pritchard,
No.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. I would now take a motion to convene as McAllister Retirement Trust Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the August 25th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAllister Retirement Trust Authority. Approval of retirement benefit payments for the period of September 2020, and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yep.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. I would now take a motion to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yeah.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and we're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
All right.